Hey, I'm Enzo Siragusa and this is 3345 for Fabric. I was brought up very kind of Italian, so musically it was a lot of like Sicilian folk music actually. I have very kind of like early memories of my parents and my granddad especially playing that music growing up in the 80s, and there was like break dancing was a thing, so that's the first time I probably came across records as such. At home it was mainly tapes really that I remember that we had. I wouldn't say, I'd love to say I came from a musical family. It wasn't, but it was definitely a party household. It was coming to the late 80s and there was this acid house explosion. The stuff like Happy Mondays and Stone Roses started to resonate with me because I was coming into like my early teens, I suppose. And it's at that point that you start to discover music and actually start to listen to it, feel it and interpret it in your own way. What happened in that period between 1991 to I'd say about 1996 was dance music evolved. It became a thing. I look back on it with kind of really fond memories. Everything felt so groundbreaking. Like I was into that hardcore kind of ravey stuff, breakbeat stuff, and then jungle happened. Then I started to go raving. I was legally not old enough, but they were different times, I went into those raves and discovered, like hardcore literally went from this breakbeat rave sound to this darker sound that then people started to call it jungle and drum and bass. And we're talking about a short period of time here. What you found was certain record shops became specialists in certain sounds. I used to venture to Slough, and they were like very much into their kind of US imports and US house. And there I was discovering house music, and that's where I discovered West Coast house and different sounds that from the US that I'd never heard of. I was 14 years old. I went to a careers advisor, as you do at that point. She was like, "So what do you want to do with yourself?" I said, "I want to be a DJ." She was like, "Right, okay, well now you'll be doing business studies GMVQ then." There you go, just take that off to your teacher, please. And that was it, do you know what I mean? It's like, this wasn't a career path. She didn't even explore, do you want to go and do music technology? Would you like to be a music producer maybe? Or, she was like, yeah, okay, so you want to be like, on the radio or something? It's like, yeah, it's business studies. So, some of this early stuff it's kind of like, it's breakbeat really. It just gives you a highlight of the kind of music that you were hearing in raves, I suppose. I think I'd play that now, to be fair. That's a good tune, that. But yeah, so those are kind of a very early sound, if you like, which is what kind of got me into it. And then this, which I've definitely played more recently, We Are IE, which is a big tune. So, this came out, I think it was 1992. And for me, this is the birth of jungle. But we didn't know it at the time. But when this came out, I think people must have just thought, that is an incredible tune. I want to make something that sounds like that. You can hear like it's like about 128 BPM. It's a 4/4 kick drum. Do you know what I mean? So it's like early days. Let me hear you scream. 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 That was a 4/4 kick drum and then a breakbeat. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, hello, what's this? And around the same time, this is a great example. This is an iconic record from the rave scene. I dropped this at Fabric on my first All Night Long, and I found a way to get to it. And I remember thinking, how the bloody hell am I going to get out of this record? This for me is hardcore. This is, things were getting faster. The rave scene was in full effect in the UK, probably 92, 93. And, you know, I was hearing records like this being played. I mean, you've still got that 4/4 kick drum underneath, so you've still got that sense of like there's an identity crisis going on here, but those bass lines are getting bigger, it's getting faster, so. Proper. I mean, that's proper rave music, you know, it's euphoric, it's uplifting, you know, when that kind of lead sound comes in, it's just, the place used to erupt, you know, and I think that was the beauty at the time was, you know, it was all evolving so fast, you know, and these sounds were, you'd never heard anything like this. You know, interestingly enough, actually, the other side of this record, you know, you're hearing stuff which is kind of like, I remember playing these B-sides, one of these B-sides, at the closing of a set that I played in Amsterdam at ADE. When you hear them, it's like, you know, it's like it's house music, really. Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful house track. Do you know what I mean? And it's like that's on the B side of a rave record, you know. And I love that. When I got to like 15, I remember going for I went to Tesco and said, "Can I get a job, please?" She goes, "Yeah, sure." You know, fill out the application form. She was like, "You ain't 16 yet. You can't work." She's like, "You have to be 16 to work." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's my birthday in about 6 months. Can I do the interview now so that on my 16th birthday I can have the job?" She was like, "I like you." And it was all so that I could buy myself some turntables. Even though I was a junglist, I'd always gone out to house clubs as well. But I think for me, there was a shift that happened whereby I started to discover US house. There was a nicer vibe around it. Kind of got into it then, I'd say from 96 to onwards, really. It was the truest form of expression for me. You know, when I'm looking back at what these producers were doing, you know, they were just expressing themselves. A lot of them, when I've spoken to some of these guys, they say they didn't even know what they were doing. And I think that's beautiful. There's a purity and there's an innocence about the music at that time. And I feel like when we move into some of this stuff, and this is a track of mine, like that I just like, it blew my mind. It was beautiful and just goes to show how fast things evolved. This is Let It Roll by DJ Crystal. I mean, it's beats and bass, isn't it? I mean, it's moved from, there's that euphoric, you know, synth work and, you know, all about the hands in the air to something a bit more down there all of a sudden. You know, the beats are intricate, they're like, but it's beats and bass, you know, it's drum and bass. pure euphoria, you know, but deep. Yeah, I mean, it's a real introspective sound. To get to that breakdown, it's been hypnotic. But then this darker sound has come in, you know, and it's just like, and that's dark, isn't it? I mean, that is, you can hear it, you know, it's like there's this proper moody element coming through, and all of a sudden there was a lot of records like that. I mean, they're all there, you know, I could go through them all. There's so many, you know, and obviously, like when you're in a rave, and you know, that's just, it moves you, you know, and it moved a lot of people differently, and I think that's why that sound really evolved and grew so quickly. I'd like to tell you that it's organised, but it very much like my brain, it is all over the place. The only bit that's actually organised is this section here, which actually was when I did my jungle set, the one with Bookham. I really organised my jungle. I specifically kind of selected the special records that I really liked, although I was only playing an hour, and that's a lot of music there. And I just decided, this is so good, this is me, I love this music so much, I want it to be in the middle of my record collection, at the centre of all of this chaos, which there is literally no organisation to whatsoever. There is a little bit of organisation. There's this little section down here which seems to be like early house music from the kind of early 90s into the late 90s, when I was kind of doing a lot of kind of bar gigs or whatever I could get. So whilst that was all going on, for me, the likes of Bookham and Photech were making a different sound, you know, slightly more of that introspective, kind of deeper sound. Yeah, I mean, I lived for this. Do you know what I mean? When I used to be waiting for Bookham to come on at a rave, you know, that was what, you know, that's probably why I bought the ticket. You know, there was specifically, I'd say, Randall and Bookham, you know.
Okay, slow and easy going in.
That's what I loved about it. It's just like these pads coming in, you know, and that's like the switch up in the mood with these pads, which, you know, I mean, anyone will tell you, like, all the lads used to take the piss out of me from the old Fuse crew, you know, because it would be like, here comes the Enzo pad, you know, because, you know, I'd have a house track which was, you know, it's thumping, it's going off, and then in comes this pad, you know, switching up the mood. So, you know, for me, that's this, you know, it's this stuff. And yeah, blame Bookham for the Enzo pad. I mean, there was one of the questions which was about, you know, your 3 most treasured records, and that's one of them. So, Horizons, Bookham. When the UK tech house thing kind of started to happen, you could tell a lot of those people had been junglists. A lot of the guys that I've spoken to were like, yeah, obviously we were junglists, we were jungle ravers that were starting to make house, you know, and tech house was born. But you just don't hear this kind of emotion in a lot of this music, which is, I suppose, something that I brought into, and I felt you could do in a more minimal kind of vibe of house music, which is, I suppose, what the Fuse sound was really. So when you're listening to that, it's minimal. It's a reduced, you know, there's a pad there, there's beats, and you're still waiting for the bass to come in. Do you know what I mean? And then that's one element that's going to come in and lift the track. You know, it's a very minimalist approach to music, you know, which is another thing I love about it still to this day. I mean, we've been waiting a couple of minutes for a bass line there. If you think about that in the context of being in a club, you know, if each sound has to have an impact, that's the minimalist approach, isn't it? So like the only thing that's actually organised here is my kind of jungle section. These are some of my favourite jungle tunes. Not just jungle, kind of hardcore and jungle. There's a lot of metalheads and a lot of good-looking records, basically. The other section, you can probably tell, is organised, is my Purlon section. So just because of the artwork being a certain way, but the rest is a bit kind of chaotic. Stuff at the top is probably not touched that for a very long time. I know that these are kind of like really old records, I think, of mine. You know, like questionable one, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It is a classic. I mean, it is a classic, yeah. But these would have been the first records, literally, that I bought, and then it kind of went into this stuff, really. So, see, when you used to get something like that, that was actually the local record shop. It was their own record label. I'm missing some of them. I mean, yeah, I was at that rave. I think that was 1995, if I'm not wrong. Cole Cox. Bookham, yeah, there you go. I mean, he was, you know, like Bookham. Bookham was the ones that I would look for the most. Was like I'd look at the lineup and go, is Randall playing? Is Bookham playing? Is Groove Rider there? I could have actually just stood here and played jungle for the entire time. I don't know why. We picked that out at random there, and I just remembered I played this at Fabric. And I just remember seeing like the whole room just go a bit mental. This was on the Bookham show, yeah. This record was made in 1995. I mean, that's just naughty, isn't it? There was an evolution from that. I mean, that was 95. Feels like that was ahead of its time, because I was hearing records like that in 99, 2000, 2001. So, I mean, I'm just going to touch on this record here briefly, like in terms of my musical style, and you know, like when I do play all night long, I will get into maybe some jungle, not necessarily all the time, you know. It has to be something that I'm feeling is right for that dance floor. But that night in room one of my all night longs, I got to that point, I played some hardcore, and I was like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this now? And this was how I did it. For me, especially that night, was finding sounds that didn't feel out of place, you know, when you're kind of taking that track, maybe getting into the breakdown, pitching it down to to a, like, you know, you've got a pad playing and you've gone to a slightly slower BPM. In this case, it's about 140 odd, you know, from 150 odd, you know, and then slowing it down, going into this and then going into garage and back into house. So. And then I'd be slowing it down slowly. There's certain records which I've just never got bored of. You could put it on and I could listen to it on repeat and it wouldn't offend me, especially like with that Bookham track. But there's others like from that era. There's a few Photech records and a few more Bookham records and Pesce records which I'd rush into the place. But you know, you've told me 3 records, so this is number 2. Yeah, I like this bit. I suppose the running theme is I like it deep. I like deep stuff, you know. It's that emotive side, like you said before. It's like some people go for that kind of jazzy, deeper vibe stuff. I suppose I've always erred towards that, and I suppose when I found kind of soulful house and deep house and all of this stuff, I found that in it, you know. So, and I haven't shied away from vocals. It's just that I think a lot of people associate me to this kind of minimal sound, and it doesn't, you know, you don't hear a lot of vocals there, but you know, a lot of people don't know that I have a big history in that. I used to play for like Bobby and Steve, you know, and like I played that stuff, so you know, in a different part of my DJ career with a different DJ name, so. I mean, that is like, you know, I mean, that's minimal as well, isn't it, really? It's very reduced. When I'm looking at records, like, I'm always thinking about a kind of more hypnotic groove. Like, I can't remember, like, I must have put this out for a reason yesterday. Just rolling, minimal, you know, which is what I do, you know, like, this is a big part of my sound. Not that fast, always a bit more reduced and a bit slower. Yeah, I lose myself in this kind of stuff, and that's what I associate with Room 1. And you know, a large part of my sets when I'm playing there, I am thinking about, because of the sound system, you know, you can do that. You can play that and be lost in it for like 7 or 8 minutes and layer it and ease in other stuff and move through this kind of these various hypnotic grooves. That's Room 1. That's Fabric for me personally. But that said, I played at the birthday with Fumir Tanaka. We did I think it was a 5-hour set. We went to some places and I was thinking about some records that stood out. I'm going to play what he played. I'm going to play a record he played. He picked out this record. Everyone will know the A-side because it's this. Right? Which everyone has played to death. I've played it. Now, I've always played the tambourine dub, which is this. This goes off when I play it, especially when the trumpets come in, but he's played this one.
Lay still while I wash you clean. Your blindness, your green texture lets me feast on your innocence.
I was just like, yeah, mate, I've never heard it. I was like, what is this? And he's gone, Gabriel. And I'm like, what? Like, I had it there, and like, I was like, I've never paid attention to this version on the, you know, and it's like, I've had this record for 30 years nearly.
I'm your anchor. Your rage is what is me.
It's like hypnotic and grooving, but got that vocal over the top, and I was pretty gobsmacked.
Or will your blindness live on forever?
So yeah, you learn something new every day. I should pay more attention to my B-sides. When I'm buying records, we were talking about this before, I'm thinking about where I'm playing them. There's certain clubs, certain moments, like when you're thinking about sunrise, or you're thinking about an all-day set where it's been daytime and you're going into nighttime, the mental state that people are in at that point and how you might change and move the vibe of a party as you go into night. But room one is a place that I think about. Like, these are just a few that I've come across in this last year that, I'm like, when I'm buying a new record, I'm looking for, I'm like going, right, I'm thinking of room one, for example. There's not many places I could play that, in terms of the kind of sets I'm playing, and the crowds that I'm playing to. But I know that I can find the moment in room one to play something like this. It was a very gradual growth, my DJ career, if you like. It didn't matter if you were technically a great DJ. It was more about, can you bring people to my party? Because, you didn't have like social media and TikTok to blow up and gain a following as a brand. It was very much based on getting DJs that had a local crowd in various areas, but I was cool with it. I didn't care if I earned any money. I just wanted to play, and I just wanted to be in that environment. I wanted to be in a rave, in a club. And it by no means was an easy transition to saying, right, well, I'm going from this 9-to-5 job to being a DJ. There was a few failed attempts along the way, and I wouldn't say it didn't really happen until probably 2007, 2008, when we started Fuse, that things kind of got to the point where I was like, right, well, that's me now. I'm here, and I'm going to give this my all.